The first confidence check with personal revelation is just simply called the Stewardship Test. And the Stewardship Test is asking the question, is it within my defined realm and responsibility? And should I make the final decision? In other words, am I in charge of this thing? And have I been given authority to be in charge of this particular thing? That's what stewardship is. I'm in charge of this. And now in section 28, the Lord's going to address this with Oliver Cowdery. Look at verse 2 and verse 4, 5, and 6. In verse 2, the Lord says, "Behold, verily, verily, I say unto thee, no one shall be appointed to receive commandments and revelations in this church, excepting my servant Joseph Smith Jr. He's like Moses. He's in charge. You're not the steward over the entire church. You're not the revelator, Oliver." Now jump to verse, and by the way, in verse 3, he says, you're like Aaron. You're subject to Moses, the modern Moses, Joseph Smith. Now look at verse 4. "If thou art led at any time by the Comforter to speak or teach, or at all times by way of commandments of the church, thou canst do it, but thou shalt not write by way of commandment, but by wisdom." And then the principle, "Thou shalt not command him who is at thy head and at the head of the church. For I have given him the keys of this." So the stewardship test is basically saying that we will not get a personal revelation that causes us to command someone that they must do something. In the name of God, you have to do blank if it's outside of our defined realm of responsibility. Elder Russell M. Nelson, when he was a member of the Quorum of the 12 before he became the president of the church, said that, quote, "This principle precludes receiving revelation for anyone outside of one's defined circle of responsibility." Joseph Smith would teach later in 1833 that, quote, "We do not consider ourselves bound to receive any revelation from any one man or woman without being legally constituted and ordained to that authority and given sufficient proof of it. I will inform you that it is contrary to the economy of God for any member of the church or anyone to receive instruction for those in authority higher than themselves. Therefore you will see the impropriety of giving heed to them. But if any have a vision or a visitation from a heavenly messenger, it must be for their own benefit and instruction." That's in an 1833 example that happens in the church where a woman who claims to be a prophetess comes in trying to direct the church and tell them what to do. Now Joseph says, in authority higher themselves. That logic is why I can't get a revelation commanding my stake president what he must do to guide the stake. I can't get a revelation commanding a patriarch how he should give a blessing. I can't and so on and so forth. If it's outside of my stewardship, that I won't get the revelation for it. Now don't misread this. That doesn't mean that we can't advise. That doesn't mean that we can't counsel. That doesn't mean we can't share our perspective. Indeed, we must. This church operates on counsels. It operates on sharing perspectives, sharing diverging viewpoints. It operates on even disagreeing respectfully and in a spirit of love and meekness. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that. The stewardship principle is saying, I won't get the final revelation to say what must happen in the name of the Lord for this thing to go forth if I am not the steward in charge of the very thing. Does that make sense? Hope that helps. So ask yourself, what am I in charge of? What am I the decider for? And that is likely the thing that you will get the revelation and the final say for.